"Daddy, please help her." A single dad's heel defeats 5 men. Then the Marine general arrives. The scream cut through the night like shattered glass, sharp enough to stop a hardened man in his tracks, and the words that followed were so small, so desperate, that they broke something deep inside him before he even realized he was moving. A little girl's voice, trembling and afraid, calling for her father to help someone else, not herself, in a dark parking lot where fear had already chosen its victims. In that instant, the past he had buried, the violence he had sworn to leave behind, and the promise he had made to live quietly all collided at once, and there was no turning away anymore. If you believe in kindness, courage, and second chances, take a moment right now to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel for more real, heart-touching stories like this. Ethan Cole had learned how to disappear long before he learned how to be a father. Years ago, he had vanished into shadows and silence as a Navy SEAL, trained to move unseen, strike fast, and leave no trace. Now, he tried to disappear in a different way, blending into ordinary life, keeping his head down, working long hours, and raising his 8-year-old daughter Lily alone after her mother passed away from a sudden illness that left no time for goodbyes. Fatherhood was not something he had trained for, and yet it became the mission that mattered most. He packed lunches with clumsy care, braided Lily's hair badly but proudly, and sat through school events feeling out of place among intact families, reminding himself every day that a quiet life was the price of keeping his daughter safe. On that night, Ethan and Lily were walking back to their car after a late community fundraiser at a small coastal town center. The air smelled of salt and rain, and the parking lot was poorly lit, the kind of place people hurried through without looking around too much. Ethan's body was tired from work, but his instincts never fully slept. He scanned without thinking, noticed movement near the far corner, and felt that familiar tightening in his chest that he hated, the one that reminded him of places he never wanted Lily to know existed. He squeezed her small hand gently, steering them toward the car, hoping to pass unnoticed. That was when Lily stopped walking. Her grip tightened instead of loosening, and Ethan felt her tremble before he heard anything. She had seen what he had only half noticed, a woman pinned against a van by several men, her body language screaming panic even if her voice was already breaking. Before Ethan could redirect Lily or shield her eyes, the men's laughter echoed, ugly and careless, and the woman's muffled cries were swallowed by the night. Lily looked up at her father, eyes wide with fear and confusion, and then she said the words that would echo in Ethan's mind forever. "Daddy, please help her." Ethan felt the war inside him explode. Every instinct he had spent years burying surged to the surface, sharp and urgent, while another part of him screamed that Lily was watching, that this was not who he was supposed to be anymore. He had promised himself he would never let his daughter see violence, never let the darkness he carried spill into her world. But there was another promise, older and deeper, one about protecting the innocent when no one else would. He knelt briefly, steadying Lily with a calm he did not feel, telling her to stay close to the car and not move. Then he turned toward the shadows without another thought. The first steps were quiet, measured, the way his body remembered even if his mind resisted. The men were too focused on their victim to notice him until it was too late. What followed was fast, brutal, and controlled, a blur of the motion that Ethan would later struggle to fully recall. Years of training took over, muscle memory overriding hesitation. One man went down before he could react, another stumbling back in shock, their confidence shattering as fear replaced amusement. The woman collapsed to the ground, scrambling away as Ethan positioned himself between her and the attackers, his presence alone enough to change the balance of power. The fight was not heroic or clean. It was messy, desperate, fueled by adrenaline and the unspoken knowledge that failure was not an option. 5 men, some larger than him, some armed with nothing more than their own arrogance, rushed him in turns and sometimes all at once. Ethan absorbed blows, felt pain flare in places he would feel for days, but he stayed standing. Each movement was precise, aimed at ending the threat quickly without unnecessary harm, because Lily was still nearby, and every second mattered. The men fell one by one, some fleeing, others groaning on the asphalt, until the parking lot fell into a stunned, heavy silence broken only by distant traffic and Ethan's ragged breathing. Only then did he turn back, scanning for Lily with a fear sharper than anything he had felt during the fight. She stood exactly where he had left her, small and pale under the streetlight, her hands clasped together, eyes fixed on him. There was fear there, yes, but also something else, something like awe mixed with relief. Ethan's heart twisted painfully as he realized he could never fully hide who he was from her, no matter how much he tried. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder by the second, and the woman he had saved was being helped by a passerby who had finally found the courage to step in now that the danger had passed. Ethan raised his hands slowly as police cars screeched into the lot, red and blue lights painting the scene in harsh colors. He did not resist as officers moved in, weapons drawn, their voices sharp with commands. He complied, knowing how this looked, a lone man standing among fallen attackers, his knuckles bloodied, his clothes torn. Lily cried out, breaking free from where she stood and running toward him before an officer gently intercepted her. As Ethan knelt on the cold ground, cuffed and exhausted, he felt a familiar weight settle over him, the sense that no matter how right his actions had been, consequences were unavoidable. He worried not about himself, but about what Lily would remember, what story this night would become in her mind. He tried to meet her eyes, to give her a reassuring look, but doubt gnawed at him. Had he failed her by showing her this side of him, or had he taught her something important about standing up for others? At the station, the atmosphere shifted as statements were taken and evidence reviewed. Security footage from a nearby building showed the confrontation clearly, the man initiating the assault, Ethan intervening only when it became unavoidable. The woman he saved, shaken but safe, insisted on telling her story, her gratitude pouring out in a way that left no doubt about who the real aggressors had been. Slowly, the tension eased, and the cuffs were removed. An officer offered Ethan a quiet nod of respect, but there was still an undercurrent of something unspoken, a recognition that this man was not ordinary. That recognition became undeniable when the doors of the station opened later that night and a uniformed Marine general walked in, his presence commanding immediate attention. Conversation stopped mid-sentence as he crossed the room with deliberate steps, his gaze fixed on Ethan. The general had been notified after someone ran Ethan's name through a deeper system, uncovering a service record that read like a legend whispered among elite circles. The man standing there now, tired and bruised, was a decorated former SEAL whose quiet retirement had been anything but accidental. The general did not come with anger or judgment. He came with something heavier, a profound respect born of shared understanding. He acknowledged Ethan's service, not loudly, not theatrically, but in a way that carried the weight of years spent leading men into impossible situations. He also acknowledged Lily, kneeling briefly to her level, commending her bravery and compassion, telling her that her father had done something very important. In that moment, Ethan felt a tightness in his chest he could not control, a mix of pride, relief, and grief for the life he had left behind. The charges were dropped, the attackers arrested, and the night slowly loosened its grip. As Ethan and Lily stepped back into the cool air outside the station, the world felt different. As if a door he had kept locked had cracked open. He realized that hiding his past entirely was neither possible nor necessary. What mattered was how he carried it, how he showed Lily that strength could exist alongside kindness, that courage was not about seeking fights but about answering the call when someone needed help. In the days that followed, the story spread quietly through the town, not sensationalized but spoken of with admiration. Neighbors who had barely noticed Ethan before now greeted him warmly, teachers looked at Lily with a new softness, and the woman he had saved sent a letter that Ethan kept folded in his wallet, a reminder of why some battles were worth fighting. Lily asked questions, careful ones, about her father's past and about that night, and Ethan answered honestly but gently, framing his experiences not as glory but as lessons learned at great cost. Life did not become perfect. Ethan still worked long hours, still struggled with memories that surfaced uninvited, still worried every day about being enough for his daughter. But something had shifted between them, a deeper trust forged in a moment of fear and courage. Lily walked a little taller, held his hand a little tighter, and spoke often about helping others, about being brave even when it was scary. Ethan watched her with quiet awe, realizing that in trying to protect her from the world, he had also been learning from her all along. As time passed, the Marine General checked in occasionally, not with orders or expectations, but with the simple understanding that warriors did not stop being warriors when they hung up their uniforms. He reminded Ethan that service could take many forms, that raising a compassionate child was as vital as any mission he had ever completed. Those words settled into Ethan's heart, easing a burden he had carried for years. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that real heroes often walk quietly among us, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who believes in doing the right thing, and subscribe to the channel to keep stories like this alive. And before the ending, we have one special request for you. Please comment below with a single word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words help others find these stories and remind us why they matter. On some evenings, as the sun dipped low over the ocean and painted the sky in soft gold and purple, Ethan and Lily would sit together on the porch, listening to the waves and talking about their day. In those moments, there were no titles, no ranks, no battles past or present. There was just a father and a daughter, bound by love, resilience, and a shared understanding that even in a world full of darkness, one brave choice could change everything.